Welcome to the Bad Mom Show, where we flip the script on shame, shed light on what's made you feel invisible, and take your story back. It is time to step into that bold, baddie mom you were created to be. Around here, BAD stands for blessed, already approved of, and divinely designed, because you are not a bad mom. You are a leader. You were chosen for your family on purpose. You are divinely designed and anointed as the heart of your home, and you can confidently own your mantle of leadership as a fiery woman to lead with boldness, not burnout. This is your space to reclaim the parts of your story that have felt like weaknesses and discover they were actually your superpowers all along. It is time to shine as a BAD mom. Are you with me? Let's go. Hey, and welcome back to the Bad Mom Show. I am Teresa Todd, your host. And as always, I believe you are bad in the best way because you are blessed, already approved of, and divinely designed as the heart of your home, as a leader with strength and authority. You are equipped for such a time as this to stand in the gap for your kids and to lead them well, launching them into the world as beacons of hope, lights on a hill because of who you are and whose you are. In the name of Jesus. Can we all get an amen? How are you today? I'm so glad you're here. If you are just joining us, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. I love this community growing. So please continue sharing it with your friends. It makes me so happy. And if you are just hopping in, we are in the middle of our Summer Sizzler Series. We're talking about hot topics here. And you guessed it, it's sex. We are talking about sex. Now, this is the third episode in the series. So if you missed part one and part two, I highly suggest going back and listening to those before jumping into today's, because they're all kind of building off each other. But today we are breaching that question. How do we answer the question? Last week we talked about becoming your kid's trusted source of truth and being ready to answer their questions, but also for you to be able to open the conversation and not see sex as a talk that you sit them down and you have once. This is a dripping the truth over time. You can start as young as 2 because they're already asking questions. You just probably didn't realize it. But now you're going to notice that there's plenty of opportunities every single day to bring it up. Have you ever wondered? That was your homework. How did it go? I want to know. Please tell me. And isn't it amazing how God's designed? He's so creative, and you just use the elements around you, nature, pets, animals, fruit, whatever it is, pregnant bellies, your own babies, you know, their own birth story. There's lots and lots of opportunities and ways for you to bring it up without being weird and awkward, and creating an environment of trust and connection with them around this very, very important topic. I am so passionate about this, especially as a mom in this digital world. Our children need to be equipped with truth. They need to be armed with plans for what to do in situations when they are faced with them, not if, because you have to be honest with yourself. They are going to be exposed to something, whether it's through a picture or a video or a friend or a friend's older sibling who is more experienced or, has more freedom, let's say, than the younger siblings. There are tons of ways that your kids are going to be exposed to things related to sex, and you want to be the first one, their front line that says, this is the truth. I will always tell you the truth. Come to me with your questions. No question is a dumb question. I will always give you the truth because I want to be your trusted source of that information. And I want you to know that this family is where you come for truth and safety, and that teaching them like the truth of their biology, the right language for all those things, the privacy, the sanctity of their body, this that why we keep it safe, why we keep those things private, to trust their instincts, telling them you have good discernment, trust your gut, and you're a leader. And sometimes leaders have to do hard things like leave a situation when everybody else is staying, or maybe they make fun of you. You leave anyway, and just letting them know that you believe in them and that you will always be there for them. And if they do see something, to never be afraid to come to you and tell you because they will not be in trouble. You have to let them know these things. And then we talked about how to have these conversations in a comfortable way with them, shoulder to shoulder conversations. So, anyway, go back and listen if you didn't listen. I don't want to go through it all again. But this time, this episode, we're going to get into the big question of how do I answer that question? Because I know it's going to come eventually. And oh, it came for me. And it was hilarious, I will say. So maybe I'll share it here today. So, how do we have the talk? How do we have the talk? Well, it's an awkward topic. I get it. Uh, but remind yourself, I want them to hear it from me first, not from somebody else. That is why you're going to get over the cringy, get over the awkwardness, and you're going to have the conversation. So here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to say, honey, that's a great question. Come on, let's sit down at the kitchen table. We're going to have a talk now. Don't do that. Do not drop the sex book on their heads, please. That's probably what happened to you, or you got no information, right? Either you were like, whoa, water hose, like, what are you saying? What are you telling me? This is too much information overload. Get me out of this room. Or nobody told you anything. Or what they told you was, shameful. Um, so let's not do those things, right? Again, this isn't about you. This isn't about your past. This is, if you go back to the episodes, you're thinking about how you want your family to approach this highly important topic, especially in a digital world, where it's about the safety of your children, about their bodies, about their minds. It's a big element of this, protecting their minds. Because what you see and what you hear influences your thoughts and your mind, and it gets into your heart. It really does. And I talk to my kids about this even with scary movies and things. Like the Bible says, guard your eyes and ears because it is the gateway to your heart. And that is a big reason, if you believe in what I believe in, that the enemy would love nothing more than to get into your kids' eyes and ears through sexually inappropriate images to try to get into their heart at an early age. And you are the gatekeeper. You stand in that gap and you say, not on my watch. In the name of Jesus, that is not happening in my family. So don't do the sit down, weird, uncomfortable conversation. No, that's too much, way too much information, and it's overwhelming. And no, you're dripping the truth, you're filling them with truth, you're doing the shoulder to shoulder. And now comes the time when they bring it up, and you got to be ready. What you going to say? Okay, so you want to think about this and you want to literally craft a statement, and then you want to practice it. You don't have to practice it on your kids. Practice it in the mirror, practice it on your spouse. Come up with it together. Make it something simple, simple language, something you can remember. But the key is what message do you want to convey to your children about sex as they're growing up in your home? Do you want it to be a faith-based message about sex? I really like that for me and for our home, because I want them to understand that God created their bodies in a beautiful way. He designed us to be able to create life, which is incredible. Um, and that the sanctity of that experience is really, really special, that he designed it for procreating families and for closeness and intimacy, that it's not something to just hand out loosely to anyone and everyone. And that really it's protecting the sacredness of their bodies. I did not grow up really with that mindset or that image in my brain of like, yes, I knew my body was something to protect because, stranger danger, things like that. But Did I really feel like my body was the temple of the Most High King and that God created me in his image, that I bore the image of Jesus? Did I really know the scriptures that you are uniquely and wonderfully made, that there's not one other human being on the planet like you, and God chose you out of all the people in the universe to be you at this time for such a time as this, that he put special gifts inside of you that only you have, and that he has purposeful plans for you. But in order for you to fulfill those plans, you have to walk it out. You have to know your identity. You have to spend time with God, and you have to trust and believe in his plans for you. And as you grow, you are learning and becoming more of that person with God, with us supporting you. But it's important to be focused on you, and protecting your body is part of that, because we don't want to get involved in things where like it could harm you physically, but also it could harm your dreams for your future. So for me, it really is important that they have that foundation, not in a legalistic, fearful way, religiosity, not that way, not what I know a lot of you did experience, that shaming and embarrassment and the guilt of like, if you do this, you're a bad person. But to really believe, oh, wow, this is something really sacred and my body is sacred. And it's important that I think about these things before I just share my body with somebody else. Um, so that could be part of your message, a faith message. It might be a health message. You might want to tell your kids that, sex waiting, or that sex is um, something that they, is for their adult life, but like too early in life, it could harm their health. There's lots of different ways it could be a combination of things, whether you want it to be about their faith and their health. So just thinking about what you want that message to convey, and then start practicing it, writing it out. And a reminder, it's not about your past. You don't want to say, like, I don't want you to make the mistakes I made, or, because the truth is, some of us, there can be teen pregnancies, there could have been abortions. All those things are very real parts of your experiences and your stories. I know it. There again, we've talked about there could have been trauma, there could have been abuse, there could have been broken trust. So we can come from a lot of places of pain when we're talking about this very sensitive, personal, vulnerable topic. But we, again, want to keep our focus on our children, their future, and the message that we now, as the leaders, want to convey, because now this is your home, this is your family, and you get to decide what the message is and the legacy that you pass forward. And that's not ignoring your past, but your past is something that you get to deal with God, with a trusted source, a counselor, a coach, but to heal those things separately from this time. Okay, so I will share the message that we came up with, and again, it's based off of the training that I did through Birds and Bees that I've shared with many women. It's a great program. You can look it up online. You can follow them on social media. But I liked how they laid this part out, because I thought it was really a really great idea. It was thoughtful, it was simple, and it was something that made me feel prepared. And the more prepared and armed you feel, the calmer you will feel when the question comes up. So again, using those phrases, by God's design, sex is intended between a husband and a wife, where they come together in a special way to express their love for each other and to grow a family. Hey, friend, thank you so much for being here and following the Bad Mom Show. I would love to hear from you, so let's connect. After the show, send me a DM and let me know what's hitting home for you. What do you struggle with the most as a mom? And what topics would you like to hear more about? This show is all about connection in the community, because that is how we truly grow. So reach out to me at the Teresa Todd on Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok, and I cannot wait to hear from you. So that's our line. I'll say it again. By God's design, sex is intended between a husband and wife, where they come together in a special way to express their love for each other and to grow a family. That's it. And then you don't have to go into detail unless they're like, yeah, but how? But that is a good foundation for just setting like the healthy boundaries for your family about what sex is. So if they do say, yeah, okay, but like, what does that mean? Like, how? You're going to stay calm, right? Use those lines. That is a great question. I am so glad you asked. And then you're going to keep it really simple. I'm talking biology 101, okay? Now, again, if you're just hopping in now, you really need to go back and listen to last week's and the first episode. But last week we talked about the seeds and the eggs and kind of using those terms in order to explain procreation. So, oh my gosh, when this question came up, again, it can just come out of left field. It can really blindside you. We were driving home from school and I was not expecting it. Uh, but all three of my kids were in the car. And it actually came up because we were talking about an adoption. A friend in one of the classes is adopted. And I can't even remember how it turned into asking like how a baby was made. But he's African American. They're not, the family is not. And so maybe that's what sparked the question because they were curious about how he was born, even though like the mother wasn't his mother. And I explained, well, it still happens the same way, biologically, how the baby comes out and all those things. And we had gone through the seeds and the eggs, so they understood like the baby is formed in the uterus, and when it's time, it starts moving, and the body knows what to do, and the doctor knows what to do, and the baby knows what to do, and it's amazing, and all the things. So we had already had those conversations. And my youngest, she must have been 5. Yeah. She goes, yeah, but how? Like, how do you make the baby? Like, how does the seed get to the egg? And I was like, oh boy. Okay, here we go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening. So I did that. That's a great question. That is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked. And then I just did it. I said it. I said, God is so amazing. Can you believe how creative he is? He is so creative. So, by God's design, the husband's penis has the seeds, and he puts it inside the mother's vagina, and the seed travels through deep into her uterus and finds the egg, fertilizes the egg, and then voila, and a baby starts getting born or being created. See, I'm fumbling over it right now. But I said it, and then there was like a pause, and then they just erupted in laughter. I was dying laughing. Like we were just hysterically laughing. They were like, it's crazy. And I'm like, I know. We were like dying laughing. And it was so great. It was so perfect because it was like, here's this awkward moment. I said the thing, I just said it, and they all were like, what? I mean, I could not stop. I mean, it was like tears rolling, laughing so hard. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, what? That's crazy." And then they're like, "Can you change the music? Like, can you turn it up? I like the song." Like literally, that's how fast it changed. So I'm telling you, when it happens, just say the thing, be ready with the seeds and the eggs, just blurt it out and then see what happens. My kids laughed hysterically and then asked me to change the song. And we were on to like, can I have a snack when I get home? Like it was, and then of course, since then we've had conversations about it where they've been like, wait, like especially my, slightly older ones, but like how many times do you have to do it? Like then we get into the details a little bit more, but always saying biological. Just like, you don't have to get into like the intimate details of things. They are mind blown already as it is. So yeah, we had that talk. And I would love to hear if you've had that talk or if it has come up. And if you fumble it, it's okay. Be like, hey, circle back. That's why I love that. Circle back, come back. And just try again. Hey, remember earlier you guys asked me that question and I was so not prepared. I was distracted. I was driving. I totally fumbled that. let me try again because I want to make sure I get this right. Try again. And they may be like, yeah, okay, cool. And like not ask another question. But the point is, you've put the information in their ear. They heard it, whether they respond or not. And then it will open doors, I promise, for deeper conversations. Even at bedtime, bedtime is a time when my kids love to all of a sudden have a heart to heart, especially my son. He'll ask me more questions, deeper questions. And I'm like, hey, because you're older and we're alone now, I can talk to you a little bit deeper. And that is a really key thing. Like if you have kids different ages, keep it like to the lowest level of the youngest one when you're all together. Then later, if you're alone with the older kid, say, hey, that was an important question earlier. I had to keep it, really basic for your younger siblings. You're older, I can share more information with you because you're ready to hear more. And then they might ask more questions there, or you could say, here's how I would answer it for you, but like that's too much information for your younger siblings. You could totally do that. And again, like how freeing, how wonderful for your parent to say, like, I'm acknowledging that you're maturing and that you're at a level where you're ready to hear more. Um, that's going to make them be more trustworthy of you and more open to come to you with questions. And like, my son's 12. He's reaching that age where he's going to start hitting puberty, where we've been talking about that. And he has friends that, the girls mature a little faster. So there's things going on, that, but with friends that have crushes and people wanting to have girlfriends. It's all related to this topic. And even with that, we talk about, hey, like you might have crushes and that's great. And like so and so might have a crush on you. Well, you're an awesome person. I totally understand why they would. But that's a distraction right now at your age. Right now, your focus is on you. You don't need, like they're figuring out who they are. And I know that that is probably a topic that of conversation that we could do a whole episode on. Because I know there's a lot of differing opinions about dating and what age and things like that. In my opinion, hey, they are young. They're figuring themselves out. It is a distraction. It's not cute to me when people are like, oh, that so and so's dating so and so. I'm like, oh, but like, what's the intention here? And as a parent, that's me saying, like, I want my child to think about their intentions too. Like, I want them to be respectful of their bodies, their minds, their dreams, their goals, their futures, but also the other person. So, like, if you're going to become sort of meshed with this person as a quote unquote boyfriend or girlfriend in a relationship and you're very young, what is the intention here, So just making them even think out of the box that way because it's very easy for them to say, well, so and so's doing it, so I did it. And especially with sex and sexual intimacy, it doesn't even have to be the act of sex, but sexual acts, sexuality, and things like that. They see other kids doing it. Unless you're talking to them about it, they might just go along with it. And I don't want that for my family. I don't think you want that for yours. So speak to them about these things, as awkward as it is. Be open to their questions. They're going to be curious. Hear them out. That's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you came to me with that. Okay. If their response is, ew, that is a great response. That is a great response. And your response is, yeah, I totally understand why you would say ew, because sex isn't meant for children. It's intended for husbands and wives or adults, however you want to say it. It's not intended for you guys, for kids. So that makes perfect sense why you would say ew. That is really important for them to know. Okay. So if you don't want to wait for your kids to bring it up, you can totally do the have you ever wondered how a baby is actually made? It's pretty amazing. By God's design. And then you fill in the blanks. Um, okay. And again, making sure we're labeling it appropriately. What I just told you about, if they did say what is sex, but like what I just told you, like is called sexual intercourse. It's also called sex because they're seeing things. They're going to start seeing things. They're going to start hearing things, and you want them to know the proper names for things and the truth about that. I'm going to keep coming back to that, saying it again and again because it's so, so important in this digital world. One thing that I really love about this program too is they talk about it. You can share it from a biblical perspective, using stories in the Bible of how God created Adam and how he created Eve and how they were a partnership and they become one, things like that. But I love in Psalm 139 where it says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. and sharing with them what that means. Fearfully and wonderfully made, that they are unique, that they were made in awe and wonder in God's image, that they're unique, they are precious, they are so purposeful, and that it is something so worth protecting. And because it's so beautiful, it needs healthy boundaries. So use examples of things that are beautiful and powerful, but they're beautiful and powerful in safe boundaries, like a fire. A fire is warming, it's cozy, it's beautiful to look at inside of a fireplace. But outside of its safe boundaries, it's very dangerous and destructive. Or when you go to the zoo and you see the lion exhibit, they're so majestic, they're masterful, they're gorgeous, powerful beings because they're safely contained in their space away from humans. Outside of that cage, they're very, very dangerous and destructive. So give them some analogies like that. Sex is the same way. In the safe boundaries of marriage, the way God intended it for us, it is beautiful, it's wonderful, it's powerful, it creates life. It's amazing. Creates life. But outside of the safe boundaries of marriage, it can be harmful to your life. It can be harmful to your health. It can destroy your dreams and your future because there are consequences to that choice, right? So it's not a guilt thing, and it's saying, that's how we view it. And if, we've even talked about they know people that have had children outside of marriage, or they're even becoming very aware of people living together that aren't married. So it's like, it's really, there are so many like exceptions now to the traditional rules that it's really important for you guys as a family to know what you stand for, and to talk to your kids about it. And when they, brought things up like that, I said, yeah, so and so did have a child when they were in college. That's true. And they're like, oh, they weren't married yet. Yeah, that's right. And it did. It impacted her future. Luckily, she, who they were referring to, um, did end up, having a family and things like that down the road. And she did have the baby, and the baby is a beautiful human being and wonderful adult almost now. Um, but they were just like, huh. But I said, hey, it did it. It almost derailed her dreams, and it changed her future for sure. And it was a hard season for her. So there are a lot of real life examples around you. Be open to their questions, answer them honestly, and really think about, where do you stand on these things? Where do you stand on cohabiting before marriage? Um, where do you stand on sex before marriage? That is a really important thing, to be honest with yourself about how you feel about it, because how you feel about it is what you're going to communicate in your message to your kids. Okay. And then, I think it's important too, especially if you have teenage kids and maybe they are dating, um, to let them know, like, if this is your message too, or you want it to be your message too, and encouraging them to wait until marriage, to say like, hey, desire is part of how you were created. It's so normal to have desires for another person, or if they're dating, to have physical desires, like your body is changing and hormones and things like that. But really teaching them, that's why it's really important to talk about like their dreams and their goals together, and say, hey, like, we're going to help hold you accountable to those things because we love you and we want your future to be prosperous, and we want to help you reach your goals and your dreams, and that this is your opportunity to learn about yourself and to hone in your gifts and your talents and find your purpose and who God made you to be. And so just letting them know that those things are natural, but they don't have to act on them. And that when they do, they're not a bad person. If they do, they're not a bad person, but like, to understand that, like, yes, they have self-control. That you can be there to help them through those things. That's the kind of relationship that I really hope to have with my kids. I think that that would have been really helpful for me if I had somebody on my side like that. But really thinking about what you value, what you want your kids to value, knowing that there will be temptations, not just sexual ones. There's going to be tons of things that come at them. Um, so all of this is how are you arming them to be prepared and rooted in truth of who they are and what's important to you, to your family, to them. Okay, I know this was kind of a lot, but it's important. And I just want you to know that you were chosen for your family, right? You don't have to have the perfect answers. Maybe your past is not how you're moving forward with your family. That is okay. It's probably 99% of us. But you are a safe place for your children to turn to. And you are a leader, and you are authoritative and bold and strong and courageous and wise. So don't doubt it for a second. And the more you stand in that authority, the more your kids will trust you and lean on you especially in these important conversations. Okay, homework time. I want you to come up with your statement and practice using it. Remember to be dripping the truth with your kids, asking curious questions, listening to theirs, having those shoulder to shoulder conversations. But I would love for you to draft your message, your family's message, and share it. Share it with me, share it with a friend, practice it, share it with your kids, and I would love to hear how it goes. All right, that's all I have for you today. Next week is going to be our last episode in this Summer Sizzler series. I hope you've been enjoying it. And what we're going to tackle is what happens when your children are introduced to something around sex before you would like them to. What happens when the internet exposes them to something that you would not like them to be exposed to? Yep, we're going to talk about it. All right. I will see you next Wednesday. Have a good one.